It's Thursday, August 13th, and this is now on HNN. New coronavirus cases surge above 300 today, and there's been a big jump in the number of OCCC inmates who are infected.
This as Mayor Caldwell denies a retirement potluck was the source of infections at Honolulu Hale.
We do know that there have been gatherings in lunchrooms.
Ill-advised to hold a gathering, especially indoors.
A homicide investigation is underway after a deadly shooting in the Ala Moana area.
Just a few moments ago, I hosted a very special call with two friends.
President Trump announces a deal in the Middle East. I'm Skyler Henry at the White House with the historic peace agreement reached in the region.
These stories, plus we'll take you to the pandemic version of the opera. Coming up on This Is Now.
If the governor has to make the decision to go into the full lockdown again, to the stay-at-home order, it'll be a reflection of our need to keep people alive.
And that's Lieutenant Governor Josh Green reacting to the record number of new cases being reported today. We're expecting a press conference with Governor Ige and other state officials coming up this afternoon, so stay with HNN and our digital platforms for more on that. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Jonathan alongside Ashley. We've got a lot of news to get to today.
That's right. State health officials are reporting 355 new COVID-19 cases today, along with 2 new deaths. The county breakdown shows 344 of the new cases are on Oahu, 7 are on Maui, 4 are on the Big Island, and 1 is on Kauai. The state's latest fatalities are both Oahu men over the age of 60. Hawaii's death toll now stands at 40. Here are new details about some existing clusters. DOH says at least 86 of the new cases are part of a cluster at the Oahu Community Correctional Center. Officials say the jail has at least 116 cases tied to it, with 24 staff and 92 inmates having tested positive for the virus. DOH says 20 cases are under investigation at the Institute for Human Services men's shelter in Iwilei, and officials are still investigating the cluster of 11 cases at Honolulu Hale, which may have stemmed from gatherings at the offices. Also new at noon, the Hawaii State Teachers Association is holding a virtual news conference to announce legal action against the state and the Department of Education over the school's reopening plans. If we hear from the teachers union in this half hour, we'll try to share that with you, so please stand by. Meanwhile, the union that represents local nurses is worried that the spike in coronavirus patients could soon overwhelm Oahu hospitals. Here's what they had to say.
Daniel Ross is the president of the Hawaii Nurses Association. We'll start with this. Just how close are we to capacity?
Well, I think we still have some capacity. The danger is the way things are quickly rising. If we stay in the 200s, testing positive every day, we're going to be overwhelmed in a matter of weeks. It's pretty scary. I think the hospitals can probably handle it if we stay in the 100 range. But with the 200, it's filling quickly. So the Queens and Straub have been getting the bulk of the cases, and Queens currently has, I believe, 4 units that are dedicated to COVID, and that's plans to expand. So while that's going on, we still have all the other things that people need help with in the hospital. So they're having to move them out and move them away. It's a pretty scary prospect.
Yeah, and we always think about the patients and the amount of people going into the hospital. Yeah. But sometimes we don't think about the people that are in the hospital. That would be you and your colleagues. Do you feel safe? Are there enough protections for you?
Not entirely. It's gotten a lot better as far as the PPE is concerned. But one of the main things we've been asking for testing. We're not tested. I've had members who've had exposure, but management deems it low risk exposure and will not test them unless they get symptomatic. That's been one of the big concerns that we've been pushing for. We see on the news and the reports all the time when food establishments or any other business has somebody positive, They don't put one. The hospitals have positive workers. We got them all the time. It's not an uncommon thing. And that takes away our workers too. And that's one of the problems. It's not that we won't have the space, we don't have the workers. We're not going to have the nurses to take care of the people when we fill up. You know, the state has emergency tents that they can put up temporary hospitals, but we don't have the people to staff them.
Now, we first told you about this story on This Is Now yesterday. The Department of Health says an employee potluck may be linked to several cases at Honolulu Hale, but the mayor disagrees. Allison Blair has more on that.
This was the flyer many Honolulu Hale employees found inside their inbox late last month, alerting staff to a retirement party for a member of the city's purchasing department. The 4-hour farewell event happened July 24th. That was the same day Hawaii set one of its single-day records with 60 new cases, and health officials were warning that gatherings among friends, family, and co-workers were contributing to the spike.
There was a tent outside. People came and got their bento, walked through, said, you know, good luck, really enjoyed working with you, and went back to work.
Caldwell said masks were required and so was social distancing. The Department of Health said on top of the 11 Honolulu Hale staff who were positive previously, 2 more positives came back from Monday's mass testing.
We've confirmed no cases from the one retirement party we know of. We do know that there have been gatherings in lunchrooms at BFS where they are not practicing physical distancing or mask wearing. And perhaps that's partly what Department of Health was referring to.
City Councilman Ikaika Anderson was baffled to learn there were any social gatherings at all.
Ill-advised to hold a gathering, especially indoors, at this point in time. I'm not sure what these employees are thinking.
Critics say it's not the first time the city's exercised poor judgment during the pandemic.
The gatherings in streets for street fairs, the event in Chinatown, now this at Honolulu Hale, are catastrophically stupid decisions, and that's why you get spread.
While we wait for the Department of Health to pinpoint the exact potluck those cases are connected to, the mayor issued a new directive to employees banning all social gatherings. Allison Blair, Hawaii News Now.
A Campbell High School teacher has been arrested after violating the travel quarantine. Lacey Denise has more.
Mark Allen Cooper returned to Honolulu from Florida on July 27th. But just a few days later, he was spotted at a local post office when he was supposed to be in quarantine. Agents from the Hawaii Attorney General's office arrested the Campbell High School teacher for violating the state's mandatory 14-day traveler quarantine. Officials say an acquaintance reported him to a citizens group that helps track down people who violate the quarantine. The group then reported him to authorities. Cooper was arrested a week after teachers statewide returned to work. The State Department of Education said they can confirm Cooper is a teacher at Campbell High School and that he did request the, quote, appropriate leave for quarantine purposes. It's not clear if he had been on campus before his arrest. Cooper's attorney says he traveled to Florida because of an illness in his family and went on to say that Cooper has never had COVID-19 and has never infected anyone. A court hearing for Mr. Cooper is scheduled for August 25th. For This Is Now, I'm Lacey Denise.
HPD has launched a homicide investigation after a man was killed overnight in the Ala Moana area. Casey Lund reports.
There's still a lot of unanswered questions with this investigation, and HPD's crime scene unit will likely be here into the early afternoon, detectives tell me, working to figure out exactly what happened. What we know so far is that sometime before midnight last night, here in the 1600 block of Kalauokalani Avenue and Makaloa Street, this intersection is sort of where all that unfolded. Behind those police vehicles in the parking lot, police believe was a suspected game room where all this took place. Right when we got on scene here, we were able to talk to a homicide detective around 4:30 this morning, and this is what that lieutenant had to say.
2 unknown males entered an establishment here on Kalauokalani. They brandished firearms and they shot a male victim. Looks like a game room. There wasn't a crowd of people, but there was some patrons of the establishment.
Since then, we've learned just a little bit more about what happened. Police tell us that victim, who was shot multiple times, was 31 years old, and he was taken to Queens Medical Center in critical condition, where shortly after, early this morning, he passed away. Now, we've obtained some more information from police sources who say they observed a red Nissan Frontier pickup truck pull up to this location. Four men jumped out of that vehicle in black hoodies, dark clothing. They got out of the vehicle and then went up to that suspected game room on the second floor. That's where witnesses say they heard more than a half a dozen gunshots. The suspects ran back to their vehicle, last seen headed Mauka on Kalakaua very late last night, possibly early this morning. Again, we are trying to get more information. Police also doing their best to try and gather surveillance footage from the area, but are struggling to find good, reliable video footage. What we know is that the folks here at Kapiolani Manor, this apartment complex just ewa of the crime scene, the managers there trying to assist. Police also say that many of the patrons that were in that suspected game room have been cooperative, though they haven't given us a description of those suspects just yet. Working to get more information. Of course, Hawaii News Now will be here throughout the day trying to learn all that we can. I'm Casey Lund, reporting for This Is Now.
Longtime political lobbyist John Radcliffe passed away on Tuesday night after a years-long battle with cancer. Former Governor Neil Abercrombie was a longtime friend and recalls his last conversation with Radcliffe.
I saw him, well, within the last 2 weeks. I think those of us who knew the time that he was going to make his decision soon. I knew I wouldn't see him. I knew I wouldn't see him again.
Radcliffe spent more than 4 decades as a political lobbyist in Hawaii. Governor Abercrombie says they often found themselves on opposite sides of an issue, but it did not affect their friendship.
He was an advocate. If he was an advocate for you and with you, boy, let me tell you, you couldn't have a better ally. You never had to look right or left. And if he was on the opposite side, he wasn't doing it to try and destroy you. He wasn't doing that to try and undermine you and I'll never speak to you again. It wasn't that. And so we always knew that when we found common ground, that we would be in it together.
Radcliffe was diagnosed with terminal cancer in 2014. He then began fighting for legislation to give patients like him the option of medical aid in dying.
I said this, he was a little guy with a big heart. Let me tell you, he had more guts than almost anybody I've ever met. He was tough. He probably had more chemotherapy than I don't know, than anybody I've encountered, and kept his sense of humor, kept his sense of perspective.
It became law in 2018, ultimately giving Radcliffe the right to choose his own time to die. Abercrombie recalls the last thing he said to his friend.
That I carry him in my heart.
Radcliffe was 78 years old.
We have much more on the passing of John Radcliffe on our H&N digital platforms. Turning to other news, for the first time since March, weekly new jobless claims fall below 1 million. Howard Dykes reports.
Washington put last week's adjusted number at about 963,000 new claims. The March peak was 7 million. The pre-COVID record had been under 700,000. The unemployment rate is still above 10% nationwide. Securitas is ordered by the feds to pay $177,000 in back wages to more than 200 employees at local Hawaii airports. They weren't paid for meal breaks, despite being required to work during those breaks. Another L&L opens, this time on the Big Island in Pahoa at Punakai Shopping Center, the 7th new L&L to open since COVID. Restaurants are developing new venue options, especially for takeout. Chai, for example, has weekly meals, $120 for a feast for 2, available Tuesdays, but you have to order them on Sundays. M by Chef Mavro reopens this weekend with an outdoor brasserie concept. Call the restaurant or you can visit Open Taylor. At table.
The Rimpac military training exercises will begin on Monday in Hawaii. The Navy says this year's event will only be held out at sea because of virus concerns. The Guardian reports that vessels may dock at Joint Base Pearl Harbor Hickam for supplies only. Any personnel coming off their vessels must complete a 14-day restriction of movement period at a military facility. Service members who remain on their vessels at sea don't have to quarantine, but also won't be able to leave the pier. Last week, Governor Ige reportedly received a petition calling for the cancellation of Rimpac. Organizers claim they had over 12,000 signatures and called the exercises reckless and irresponsible. Rimpac runs through August 31st.
New today, a big international development to tell you about. President Trump says the United Arab Emirates and Israel will establish diplomatic ties. Skylar Henry has more on that.
Just a few moments ago, I hosted a very special call with two friends.
The deal announced in the Oval Office establishes formal ties between Israel and the United Arab Emirates.
After 49 years, Israel and the United Arab Emirates will fully normalize their diplomatic relations. They will exchange embassies and ambassadors and begin cooperation across the board.
The agreement makes the UAE the first Gulf Arab state to set up full diplomatic ties with the Jewish state. President Trump credited advisor Jared Kushner for brokering the agreement.
I would like to say to the people of the region, Muslims, Jews, Christians, that this does give hope, that the problems of the past do not condemn you to a future with conflict.
In exchange for the normalization of relations, Israel will halt plans for building settlements in the disputed West Bank region. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu called it an historic day. The diplomatic breakthrough came as a surprise announcement, but the president says it's been in the works for some time and that other leaders showed no hesitation.
It was like in love. It was a tremendous relationship has been built up over the last, I would say, year. Before that, it was very tense.
The deal calls for Israel and the UAE to sign a series of bilateral agreements on issues including tourism, security, and energy. And the president predicted more agreements in the future.
Now that the ice has been broken, I expect more Arab and Muslim countries will follow the United Arab Emirates.
The announcement offered the Trump administration a rare diplomatic win in the Middle East, where efforts for a peace deal between Israel and the Palestinians have so far gone nowhere. Skylar Henry, CBS News, the White House.
All right, you guys, we want to recap the news we brought you at the top of the show. So state health officials are reporting 355 new COVID-19 cases today, along with 2 more deaths. And as we told you, the State Teachers Union is holding a press conference right now talking about legal action against the state and DOE about the school's reopening plans. We have new sound just in from the HSTA president, Corey Rosenlee. Let's hear what he had to say.
Right now, Hawaii has the fastest growing COVID-19 infection rate in the country. And just a couple of hours ago, it was announced that we've set a new one-day record with 355 new cases. How can we even think about bringing students on campus on Monday? We need to take immediate action to keep all students safe and stop them from returning to school buildings.
That is HSTA's president right there. We're also expecting a big news conference this afternoon from Governor Ige. Again, look for a push alert from our H&N Digital team on that to alert you when it's going to start. We'll also stream it live on Facebook, so watch for that as well. I'm going to take you outside right now. It is beautiful out there. Yet again, Billy said we're going to see more and more of this. That's good news, right? Here he is with an update.
Thank you very much. I'm Billy V, sitting in for Guy Hoggy on this Aloha Thursday here. We're recording this about 9 a.m. Let's get you the look at the surf. First of all, 4 to 6 foot surf on the east-facing shore. Trade wind swell here. It's bumpy, sloppy. The surfers will be more happy with this. On the north-facing shore, 4 to 6 feet. That's an out-of-season bump. That was a storm that was near Oregon. It sent us some wave energy, and it's appearing on our shorelines today. On the south and west-facing shores, you've got box jellyfish. So if you're thinking about doing some recreational swimming for exercise, maybe you want to wait until Friday, more like Saturday, before you go out into the water. UV index today is at 12. We have an upper level disturbance that is, it's going to be going past Kauai and moving off to the west, but that's going to bring some enhanced overnight early morning showers. And also for Hawaii Island, we have a low level trough that's also going to bring some enhanced moisture, which may affect actually the entire island chain with some added moisture. So that's kind of changed our forecast a little bit. If we take a look at the forecast for today, sunshine That's with some possible overnight showers, and then so once we get into the afternoon, we may see some additional clouds and showers, and then of course the showers overnight. Winds are going to be easterly 10 to 15 miles per hour, and your daytime high, look at Kapolei, 91 degrees. However, Kaneohe is a little bit cooler, it's 84. As always, get the latest on air, online, on your mobile device, and at hawaiinewsnow.com.
Thank you very much, Billy. We'll watch out for those jellyfish for sure. Time to see what the internet's buzzing about, folks. And this story is really good news for Dolly Parton fans like us. Guess what, guys? She's releasing her first holiday album in 30 years.
Yay!
I can't believe she hasn't released a holiday album in 30 years, but she hasn't. It's called Best Name Ever, Holly Dolly Christmas. It will include a mix of songs that are original to her and some holiday standards. Willie Nelson, Jimmy Fallon, and her goddaughter, Miley Cyrus, all teaming up with her on this work, expected in October.
How excited are you?
Very excited. I'll be more specific, October 2nd. What you got, Ed?
Well, it's not fall yet, but Dunkin' is already thinking pumpkin. So the company is making its pumpkin-flavored coffee and espresso and bakery treats available next week. This is the earliest Dunkin' brought its fall-flavored products to consumers. No word yet if Dunkin' plans to bring its Christmas treats earlier than usual this year, though.
Might as well.
Yeah, and this is a little creepy. So researchers in Korea have invented a case that helps a smartphone crawl to a charger when the battery is low. So scientists at Seoul National University's Biorobotics Lab called their invention the case crawler. Right now, the case crawler can only scamper forward in the direction of a charging pad if it's set up on your desk. In the future, though, developers hope to that the miniature robot will be able to return the owner. The robot will be able to return to the owner when fully charged. Now, the case crawler is not on the market yet.
It's sort of like the Roomba of phone cases.
Exactly.
My friends have a Roomba, and they literally set up Roomba booby traps so it doesn't go into certain rooms. So there's like dumbbell weights on the floor in the hallway so the Roomba doesn't go that way. So, I don't know. I like that idea. I need it. My phone's never charged.
It's creepy.
Yeah, it does look a little creepy. My face was like the whole time you're reading. All right, the pandemic has forced some of the state's largest performing arts group to go virtual. Jim Mendoza takes us to the opera.
An opera singer's ability to project their booming voice makes them a potential super spreader if they had COVID-19.
So they're looking at something like 500 square feet around a single opera singer for safe distancing.
So Hawaii Opera Theater postponed the 3 big productions it planned for its 60th season, but it's not bringing down the curtain entirely.
We immediately thought of digital. A lot of companies are thinking the same thing, of putting things up on our website or on digital platforms, streaming platforms.
Hello, everyone. The new venture is called Hot Digital, a series of professionally shot and edited single-singer performances opera fans can access online.
We're using unconventional spaces like the one we've built in our building, and also, some places outside where it'll be safe to socially distance and to shoot and perform.
The first one will be a production called Bon Appetit.
We're videotaping that towards the end of this month with the goal of getting that up on our digital platform, which will be Vimeo, by the middle of September.
Hot Digital will offer an eclectic mix of free and pay-per-view material.
We see this as an opportunity to really connect with the broader base here in the islands and possibly, further away.
Definitely check it out.
To stay up to date with Hawaii Opera Theater's Hot Digital productions, go to its website at hawaiiopera.org. Jim Mendoza, Hawaii News Now.
And we mentioned that Dunkin' is releasing their fall products early. Well, so are some candy companies. So Hershey has joined forces with retailers to have their products available earlier than usual. We're talking Halloween candies and packaging. Candy makers fear the COVID-19 pandemic may negatively affect sales during what is typically their biggest season.
Favorite candy?
Oh, that's hard. Twix?
Oh, good
Kit
one.
Kat? I don't know.
I am what I eat, so nerds. Of course. You guys, that's going to do it for This Is Now. Thank you so much for watching. Press conference, Governor Ige, coming up at 2:30. Learned it's going to be on our TV platforms as well, along with our H&N digital platforms. Stay safe, stay informed, stay with us. Have a good afternoon.
Aloha.